Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm Storyboat Kay. Today, I'm going to be working on my Pale Campgrounds beach while I tell you the story of Cuddles the Cayman. When I was in early grade school, my dad surprised all of us with a special pet, one that we had never seen before. It was an alligator, or so we thought. And I was really young then and didn't know anything about alligators being on the protective species list or anything like that, but we always called him an alligator. It wasn't until I got much, much older, I was an adult, I think, when my mother informed me he was actually a cayman from the Cayman Islands. But he is a crocodilian, though they have longer legs. They do quite a bit more walking on the Cayman Islands. They go from watering hole to watering hole, and they need those long legs without dragging their belly on the rocks and getting overheated on their bellies. So that's why their legs are a little bit longer. They're more of a browner color than the Florida alligators where I used to live. He was only about 2 feet long when we got him. Most of that was tail. Well, half of it was. And he was really chill. He was just an adorable little cayman. And we enjoyed petting him. We'd pick him up when we wanted to. Just had to be careful about how you picked him up. You want to pick him up around the midriff. Don't want to touch him by the tail. You do that, he's going to swing around and bite you. He had these little razor-sharp teeth, which my dad found out one day while he was walking him. Yes, he was walking our little cayman called Cuddles. Got loose from his tether and decided to walk around the yard. And my dad wanted to grab him because he didn't want him to get lost. He swung around and cut him really good. But he did retrieve Cuddles. And we got him back in the house and everything fine. In that particular house, it was a duplex. We were at the top. And the bathroom was really big, first of all, but it was sunk down into the ground a little bit more than the rest of the level was. It had 3 steps. And we had this little kiddie pool with water in it and this big old rock in the middle for him to get out of the water when he wanted to. And he would just sit there and chill. Once in a while, we'd have guests over and they'd freak out. Oh, God, no. I can't go in there with that lizard, that thing. Oh, okay. So we would grab Cuddles, one of us, and we'd take him in one of the bedrooms, start playing with them, then put him back later when we got done playing with him. But he was really, really nice pet. Very quiet, right? They fed him little hamburger balls, which they put on the rock, and then he'd swim over and get it and then eat. When I was in 4th grade, we moved to the country into a different house. We moved in the autumn, so we had him inside. And we had him in there all winter. There was a table in the kitchen. The heat from the heater would get trapped underneath there, and that was Cuddles' favorite spot. He would just love to sit under there and soak up that heat. Sometimes he would come out. You did have to be careful that you were looking down at the ground if you're walking through the kitchen because Cuddles could be there. He pretty much just stayed in the kitchen, and my youngest brother would lie under the table with him and just pat him, touch his fingers, and he was just loving it. Cuddles didn't mind that affection at all. Plus, your hands keep him warm. When summer came, they put him outside in this bigger kiddie pool that was about 2.5 feet deep and a lot wider. And he stayed out there all summer. We'd show people Cuddles because they'd be curious about him and just explain about him. He's really nice. He's friendly. He's a good pet. And then we got to the autumn when all of a sudden we found him dead, floating in the pool. Of course, the question was asked, well, what happened? And we heard a couple different versions from our parents. One was he froze to death. I go, why didn't you bring him in? But that was a little weird because it hadn't gotten that cold yet. The other version was that they gave him meat, but it must have been bad, and he died from that. It was many, many years later. I don't know. It might have been in my 30s when my mother actually informed me that someone had fed him some poison. They were pretty sure. They hadn't fed him. They only eat once a week, Otherwise, it's just too much. They don't need to eat that often. And in the winter, you don't feed them at all because they have such a low metabolism that their food inside of their digestive system will rot. It started to make sense, and she thinks that they just didn't like it. Kind of like a pitchfork and torch type thing. We just adored that little guy, and I sure did miss him. Over the years, I would wonder, if Cuddles had lived, how long would he be? Would he be like 30 feet someday? Once in a great while. The Florida gators, they get that big once in a while. Then I had found out that caimans don't even get that big. They only really get 5 or 6 feet long. I think it seems kind of cruel. Probably would have been time to take a trip back to Cayman Islands and let him go. And over the years, I thought how nice it would be to get another Cayman, but it just made me feel really queasy. They belong where they were born and where they live. The idea of going to a pet store and just taking a Cayman for my own amusement just became less and less appealing. It's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. Plus, they would outlive us. So I'd have to think about that. It's like, who's going to take my Cayman after I die? Kind of morbid, but it's factual. I thank you so much for listening and watching my gameplay in my Pale Campground. I hope you enjoyed some of the little beach area that I just put together for you and my fishing area. And I have more to do though, so we'll see you next time. Leave a like if you can. Subscribe if you want to. Take care.